Want to set up a home studio for recording? Here are 10 things that your studio needs to have. Whether you're setting up a home studio space or you're looking to expand your recording game, this list of must-have items is essential to create a smooth, efficient, and inspiring workspace. Let's get it. All right, everyone, safety first. Keep a first aid kit around and make sure that it stays stocked. You never know when you're going to need it, and it never hurts to be prepared. This one has a variety of band-aids, tape and gauze, Tylenol for those really tough sessions, and burn cream just in case I stab myself with a soldering iron. And what's this? It's from DistroKid? How about that? Well, speaking of DistroKid, they're the distributor that I recommend for getting your music onto online streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and many more. With DistroKid, you can enjoy unlimited uploads without them taking a cut of your earnings. And DistroKid's fast and predictable upload times allow you to get your music onto online streaming platforms much faster than other distributors. DistroKid artists get exclusive access to a number of perks, such as synced lyrics, which is a tool that lets you create a karaoke-style scroll for your song's lyrics on streaming platforms. It's an excellent tool to engage your audience and elevate the experience of your music that's free to DistroKid artists on the Musician Plus and label plans. You can even have their AI guess your lyrics so you don't have to type them in, and honestly, it works pretty well. You can sign up today with the link in the description to get a discount off your first year's subscription with DistroKid. And there's also an educational link available for students and teachers that offers an even larger discount. So yeah, I got this first aid kit from DistroKid last Christmas, and I can honestly say that it's come in handy more than a few times around the studio. All right, next up, number 2, you need a variety of high quality microphone stands, preferably in different sizes so that you can mic different sources. You're gonna want stands for miking down low, stands for miking up high, and for miking everything in between. That way you've got all your bases covered. And if you do have the option, make sure that they have this little bar for tightening. It makes securing them a lot easier, and it gives you more leverage than this little nubbin. I've honestly never been able to get these things tight. It's like you need drummer strength to get these things tight enough. Do you know what I mean? There's like tight and then there's drummer tight. If you've ever tried to loosen one of your drummer's cymbal stands, you'll probably know what I mean. But then again, I get it, because there's nothing worse than having a stand sag in the middle of a session. So having this tightening bar is going to make sure that that doesn't happen in any of your sessions. But sometimes your stand may also need, number 3, a counterweight. Counterweights are a seriously underrated studio tool. Whether you're using heavy mics or you're extending your boom arms to their max distance over a drum kit, you can use an old grocery bag, some sandbags, a lunchbox, whatever you have to counterbalance the weight from the mic. These aren't super sexy, but I really do feel that they're an underrated tool for safety and protecting your gear. And just an extra pro tip, make sure that you position the arm of your stand over top of one of your tripod legs for maximum support. This will minimize the chance that the weight of your mic will tip the stand over, and this is a really good rule of thumb, especially when you're miking a singer, because should the mic tip over, it's going to tip over to the side and it's not going to knock them right in the teeth. And number 4, we're talking about headphones. Now, obviously headphones are a no-brainer, but I recommend you have a set of closed back and open back headphones in your studio. Ideally, you have a set of open back headphones for mixing and closed back headphones for recording. Closed back headphones are ideal for tracking, as their closed back prevents sound leakage into the mic and can even isolate the listener so that they can focus in on their performance, like these Sennheiser HD Pro 220s that I really love. I also have some Sony MDR 7506 that don't grip your head as much as the Sennheisers, but they do sound great for recording. These ones are a little bit older and the earmuffs have started to crack, but these can be replaced. Open back headphones provide a bit more of a natural sound that's more three-dimensional. It's almost like listening to speakers with how open the sound is. For open backs, I have a pair of Sennheiser 6XX, which sound fantastic. They're perfect for mixing, but the open back also means that they can bleed and get picked up in a microphone for recording. And that's why I recommend them for mixing, but not recording. So having a combination combination of both means you're ready for anything once creativity strikes. Speaking of variety, we're going to talk about number 5, which is dynamic and condenser microphones. Having both dynamic and condenser mics gives you flexibility for different recording scenarios. Dynamics are rugged and great for loud sources, while condensers capture detail. Bonus points if you have a pair for stereo recording. Now, here are a few of the dynamic microphones that I recommend. The SM57. Every studio should have one of these. It's a really great, inexpensive mic that is useful on a ton of different instruments, and it has a twin in the SM58, which is commonly used on vocals. The difference being its pop filter, which is missing from this shot because I mainly use this mic on recording instruments instead of voice. The other dynamic mic that I recommend having in your studio is the Electro Voice RE320, or the RE20 if you prefer, which is a bit pricier, but it does come with a low cut filter switch. This is a fantastic mic for vocals, and a little fun fact about these mics is they don't have a proximity effect, so you can get really close to them and still maintain a nice natural sound. You'll hear these on radio broadcasts, and I would say that this is one of the most common alternatives to a Shure SM7B. For condenser microphones, my favorite has become the Advanced Audio CM414 large condenser microphone. I use this mic on everything, instruments, vocals, you name it, it sounds fantastic. And you could get a pair of these for less than what it costs for one of the AKG versions. These sound better to my ear, they have more headroom before distorting, and they're hand-built in Canada. You can check out a shootout between these two microphones by watching this video. And if you're looking for an inexpensive small diaphragm condenser, you could try the Samson CO2. I believe a pair of these goes for like $100 or something. It's super affordable, and I've used them a number of times and never been disappointed. But whatever microphones you choose to get, make sure that you have at least one dynamic and one condenser, and aim to get a pair of the same microphone if you think you're going to want to utilize stereo microphone techniques. Probably a pair of condensers and either large or small diaphragm. Now, if I could only have 4 microphones in this price range, I might go with 2 Advanced Audio 414s, an SM58, and an Electro Voice RE320. This would give me a few good options for recording vocals because all of these mics sound great for that. It would also give you the option to record acoustic guitar, grand piano, or a drum set in stereo. The 414s can switch between cardioid, omni, and figure of 8, so they can be set up as a Blum line or as room mics for a drum kit. Speaking of drums, the RE320 is great on low frequency instruments like bass or kick, and it also has a switch that cuts low mids, which is something that you often see done on kick drums in the mix. And the SM58 is pretty much the same as the SM57 once you twist the windscreen off, so you can use it on instruments and get it up close to a snare or a speaker cabinet for recording electric guitar. If you're just getting into recording, I don't know what else you would need, but if you do have a different 4 mic combo that you'd go with, let me know in the comments. I want to hear it. And number 6, we're going to talk about pop filters. Pop filters are an essential tool in a recording studio. They help reduce air from getting pushed into your microphones, and they're especially useful when recording vocals to cut down on harsh plosives from P's or B's. And this will also protect your microphone if your vocalist does any spit takes. I've also seen them used on really fragile microphones like a ribbon microphone. Let's say you have one in front of a source that moves a lot of air like a kick drum. The pop filter breaks up the impact of that air and prevents this from damaging the ribbon. Pop filters come in all sorts of styles, and in this video, you'll see a comparison of different pop filters used on vocals versus a microphone without any filter. And at number 7, we're talking about acoustic treatment, which is key for minimizing reflections and creating a balanced environment for listening to sound. Just some simple 4-inch rock wool panels on your walls and maybe even the ceiling will make a massive difference in the quality of your recordings and mixes. Nothing super fancy, just some well-placed panels will massively improve the sound of your room. You can check out some of the tutorials on my channel if you'd like to build your own. I have dedicated builds for both 4-inch thick wall panels and 6-inch ceiling clouds. Another type of treatment that I've really gotten into is using burlap jute coffee bags filled with both comfort board and safe and sound. This gives you an easy and stylish 5-inch thick panel that doesn't require you to measure any wood or cut any fabric. And at number 8, let's talk about vibe. Vibe is everything in a creative space, and nothing sets the mood better than a lava lamp or some other vibey light fixtures. There's an old studio legend that says that a tube takes the same time to warm up as a lava lamp, and I can't say if that's true or not because my lava lamp is quite old and it took over 20 minutes to start bubbling, where on average I would say my tube gear takes about 5 minutes to warm up. But it still does create a peaceful atmosphere, and honestly, who doesn't like staring at a lava lamp? I also really like these floor lamps from IKEA for another warm lighting option. These come with 6 light sockets, but I find they provide more than enough light for my space with only 2 to 3 bulbs in them. Photography soft boxes are another great option, especially if you're going to be filming. These ones are kind of bulky, but I do like to point them straight up for more indirect lighting when I'm working. And finally, you could explore some RGB light strips to add some color and personality to your space. I also have some plant lights that I use to add some color from time to time. I know there are a ton of lighting options available online, but whatever you go with, it will probably add more vibe and character than your typical overhead lighting. Now, this next one might be a little bit controversial, but I really believe that if you're running a studio, you should invest in high quality cables. I really like working with ones from Mogami that use Neutrik connectors. I've made a number of these myself, and I've also got a few thrown in for free when buying some larger studio gear. While there isn't going to be a difference in sound quality between this and something like an Amazon Basics cable, these Mogami cables are durable and easy to work with, and they will last a lifetime if you treat them well. Now, I know that these are expensive and you don't have to go with the Mogami brand, but consider high quality cables a long-term investment for your studio. And once you have some great cables, you'll want to keep them well wrapped and nicely organized. Cable ties or Velcro strips are perfect for this. They make packing up and organizing a breeze, and you won't waste time untangling cables during a session. Try to get the kind that you can thread through the end of the cable so that you can wrap it in on itself. This way it's attached to the cable and it never gets lost. So yeah, cable ties are a great way to keep your cables organized and ready to use. Now that is 10 things that your studio must have, but for those of you watching to the end, I've got one more for you, and it's probably my favorite one on this list: area rugs. And these rugs aren't just for show, they actually serve a purpose. Rugs can help to absorb sound reflections from the floor, which is another way to clean up the acoustics of your room. While we can easily treat the walls and ceiling with acoustic panels for reflections, there's not much that you can do on the floors because we have to walk on them. They're a high traffic area. So having rugs allows you to add a soft surface to the floor, which would otherwise be untreated, and it's another opportunity to decorate your space in a unique way. Plus, they can help to define a dedicated space for your performers to work in. You could set up a rug for the vocalist to sing in, or another area rug for your drummer to set up their kit. This gives them a little workspace to exist in, and it has the added bonus of absorbing high frequency reflections that can help to clean up your recordings. And there you have it. Those are my top 11 must-have items for your home recording studio. What did you think? What did I miss? Let me know in the comments below. And keep your eyes open for part 2 because I've got a whole bunch of other items that didn't make it into this list. I hope this video helped you out. Leave a like if it did, and consider subscribing if you want to see more videos like this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.